This is section 44 of Mark Twain's Speeches. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Dinner to Hamilton W. Mabie by Mark Twain. Read by John Greenman. Address delivered April 29, 1901. In introducing Mr. Clemens, Dr. Van Dyke said, "The longer the speaking goes on tonight, the more I wonder how I got this job. And the only explanation I can give for it is that it is the same kind of compensation for the number of articles I have sent to the Outlook, to be rejected by Hamilton W. Mabie. There is one man here tonight that has a job cut out for him that none of you would have had, a man whose humor has put a girdle of light around the globe, and whose sense of humor has been an example for all 5 continents. He is going to speak to you. Gentlemen, you know him best as Mark Twain." Mr. Chairman and gentlemen, this man knows now how it feels to be the chief guest, and if he has enjoyed it, he is the first man I have ever seen in that position that did enjoy it. And I know, by side remarks which he made to me before his ordeal came upon him, that he was feeling as some of the rest of us have felt under the same circumstances. He was afraid that he would not do himself justice. But he did, to my surprise. It is a most serious thing to be a chief guest on an occasion like this. And it is admirable. It is fine. It is a great compliment to a man that he shall come out of it so gloriously as Mr. Mabie came out of it tonight, to my surprise. He did it well. He appears to be editor of the Outlook, and notwithstanding that, I have every admiration, because when everything is said concerning the Outlook, after all, one must admit that it is frank in its delinquencies, that it is outspoken in its departures from fact, that it is vigorous in its mistaken criticisms of men like me. I have lived in this world a long, long time, and I know you must not judge a man by the editorials that he puts in his paper. A man is always better than his printed opinions. A man always reserves to himself on the inside a purity and an honesty and a justice that are a credit to him, whereas the things that he prints are just the reverse. Oh, yes, you must not judge a man by what he writes in his paper. Even in an ordinary secular paper a man must observe some care about it. He must be better than the principles which he puts in print. And that is the case with Mr. Mabie. Why, to see what he writes about me and the missionaries, you would think he did not have any principles. But that is Mr. Mabie in his public capacity. Mr. Mabie in his private capacity is just as clean a man as I am. In this very room, a month or 2 ago, some people admired that portrait, some admired this, but the great majority fastened on that and said, "There is a portrait that is a beautiful piece of art." When that portrait is 100 years old, it will suggest what were the manners and customs in our time, just as they talk about Mr. Mabie tonight in that enthusiastic way, pointing out the various virtues of the man and the grace of his spirit and all that. So was that portrait talking about. They were enthusiastic, just as we men have been over the character and the work of Mr. Mabie. And when they were through, they said that portrait, fine as it is, that work, beautiful as it is, that piece of humanity on that canvas, gracious and fine as it is, does not rise to those perfections that exist in the man himself. Come up, Mr. Alexander. The reference was to James W. Alexander, who happened to be sitting beneath the portrait of himself on the wall. Now, I should come up and show myself, but he cannot do it. He cannot do it. He was born that way. He was reared in that way. Let his modesty be an example, and I wish some of you had it too. But that is just what I have been saying. That portrait, fine as it is not as fine as the man it represents, and all the things that have been said about Mr. Mabie, and certainly they have been very nobly worded and beautiful, still fall short of the real Mabie. End of Dinner to Hamilton W. Mabie by Mark Twain. Read by John Greenman.